Dragon Age. Yeah, this is the Dragon Age shit is nuts.
Dragon Age, the Veilguard is one that I've been anticipating to see more of. You know, Bioware, they made a lot of games that I grew up with, and this is a company that really, really needs a win, and I'm hoping that this new Dragon Age game...
Well, he got to remember that, like, the people that probably made the games that he grew up playing don't work there anymore. Like, yeah, they're gone. It's a different company.
will make us go, okay, maybe Bioware is back, and we can look forward to great things in the future.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the marketing of Dragon Age, the Veilguard, I think they've already stumbled. In terms of the quality of the final game, that remains to be seen. I did see sort of a 1 hour behind the scenes, behind closed doors presentation of it that is basically what they showcased in the 20-minute gameplay presentation that they released recently. Just a longer version of it. They showed a bit of the character creator, which actually looks really robust. And they showed more moments in between than the gameplay trailer or the gameplay presentation that they uploaded publicly. And there was also developer commentary that explained some of their goals with the game and everything. And so in terms of what the final game will be like, that remains to be seen. Keeping my fingers crossed. But marketing, let's talk about the official...
I'm the kind of person that, like, has there ever been a game that whenever I saw the trailer for the game, I thought the game wouldn't be that good and it was actually good? Did that happen? Has that ever happened? Stellar Blade? Monster Hunter? You're right. I did think Stellar Blade was going to look kind of bad. But then, also, by the way, that's just because the first trailer I looked at, it didn't show a lot of gameplay. I thought it was QuickTime events because it was a PlayStation game. So, like, whenever I saw, like, the more extended demo of it, it was good. And Monster Hunter, I mainly just didn't like that because people were fucking annoying about it. You like Helldivers, what chat's talking about? Well, like, Helldivers, like, I didn't really see, like, the appeal in it. I didn't really play Helldivers a lot. I think it's a great game, but it's just not really for me, right?
Official reveal trailer that has garnered...
Does that look clunky? I did.
Overwhelmingly negative reception. I think the concept of this trailer was just ill-conceived.
It was.
And not in line with the tone that a lot of fans would expect from Dragon Age. So the first thing I'd actually like to do is to check out the trailer itself and show you what I mean. Here we go. I will say, graphically and aesthetically, like, the game does look beautiful.
I think it looks mediocre. It looks like every other Fortnite fantasy game. It doesn't have, like, any sort of, like, real unique, like, hook to it. And like I think a good parallel to this is, like, Dragon's Dogma 2. Like, Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't really have, like, a very unique style to it other than the monsters, like the large-scale monsters. But it visually looks a lot better. This is kind of just like a worse, more cartoony version of that.
And this is the trailer, but when you look at gameplay footage...
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the engine is doing work. The Frostbite engine.
Well, it's like the tone, right? The tone is just so... I don't even know, like, what the word is for it. It's, like, so... It's like the pinnacle millennial quirky collecting Funko Pops mentality, you know? It's quirky, yeah.
But yeah, they're introducing the characters and giving them their role titles and everything with little quips and whatnot. Interjecting throughout.
Of course. It's cozy, corporate art for
but
games,
like, tonally...
No, I just can't. I just can't.
It's
get
like
into
very
this.
upbeat.
Well, it's not even that it's upbeat. It's that it's very, yeah, it's a safe. I think that's really the word. It's like safe. I think that a lot of people in the audience, like a lot of people like in just like general gaming audiences, are tired of safe games produced for mass appeal. And I feel like this is another safe game that's being produced for mass appeal. Looks like Disney
It
shit?
almost
Yeah.
feels like an MCU trailer,
Yeah, clearly.
like a Marvel movie trailer.
And that's the thing, is that like Marvel, like the reason why Marvel movies were really popular is they had S-tier actors in those movies that were really good. Like, it was casting and like also the power of the brand. Like, the power of the brand of like Thor, for example, is much stronger than like Dragon Age or something like that, because people have been growing up with Thor as a comic book hero for 50 years. So it's like everybody tries to copy Marvel, but they don't really understand why Marvel was popular. The writing was good too. It was. And you can see now, like, with like everything that happened after Endgame, whenever they try to focus on like these secondary Marvel characters like Captain Marvel, like Madam Web, stuff like this, nobody cares about this at all. It's because so much of the success, the success mix of Marvel was built off of the existing success of the characters.
And like, of course, a big part of Dragon Age is putting a crew together and everything, but
yeah. And it's also like another thing is like the text even. It just doesn't like this text here. I feel like this is the text that you look at for like a girl's OnlyFans. Like, this isn't for like a dragon game. Like, what the fuck? Or a mobile game, yeah. Like that text there? He's 100%, bro. Like, look at that. Or a mobile game? Yeah, something like that.
This, it feels like a trailer for... It feels like a James Gunn trailer, is the best way I can put it. It feels like a trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad or something like that. And that's kind of the general sentiments that's being expressed if you say, look at the comment section.
Right.
Where people are like, what are we, some kind of Dragon Suicide Squad?
It is astonishing to me that no development studio can understand the only reason why Suicide Squad was popular is because Harley Quinn and Margot Robbie is hot. Nobody actually cares about Suicide Squad. Building off of that is dumb. What were you thinking? That's wrong. Her solo film flopped. You know why? Because it wasn't sexy. They didn't try to play into her being really hot. That's the problem. Remember Underworld? That didn't flop. What's the difference?
Are you sure this is dark fantasy? I mean, I remember playing Dragon Age Origin, which is still my favorite Dragon Age game. Mm-hmm. And tonally, it feels so misaligned compared to what I think a lot of fans would like Dragon Age to be.
Yeah.
So many people miss sort of what Origin established and wish they'd harken back to that a lot more. And then beyond that, people are saying things like...
the real reason why YouTube removed dislikes.
Game where the entire world is on the brink of destruction and the stakes have never been higher. It certainly looks like everyone is having fun.
Yeah, that's again like the inability to take anything seriously. Like everything, every part, and I think that also like it feels so very artificial and like fake.
The trailer for a game that lacks everything we loved about Dragon Age, so the feedback has been pretty harsh on this trailer. Now, they did show gameplay, and the reception of that is a little better. It is definitely much less overwhelmingly negative, but there's still quite a bit of dislikes on this.
I don't know why anybody was excited about this gameplay. Nothing about it looked good at all. Like, you could look at any Unreal 5 combat demo for any fantasy game, and you would see something this good, if not better. Like, it's really not impressive or quality in any capacity. The dialogue, 90% of it was below average. What's really going on here? Like, I don't know how anybody, like, the boss fight was badly designed. Like, everything about it was basically bad. How could you possibly... It's amazing to me that so many people were like, oh, wait, it might be good.
The feedback is still ultimately pretty mixed. And I think in large part it has to do with the first impression that the trailer made. Now, look, again, the game does look beautiful. And obviously, given BioWare's past history with showing, gameplay footage or trailers that are not representative of the final product, some might doubt whether this is gameplay, and I think that's totally fair to be cautious about what they show until we see the final game. Now, seeing the behind closed doors presentation, it did feel like an actual game, and the developer actually made it a point to emphasize that the game is pretty much finished and that they're just essentially working on bugs.
Yeah, so it's going to be garbage. Okay, well, there it is, right? And so, it's going to be bad, and that's just the way it is. Like, I'll play it, I'll try it out. I hope it's a 5. I feel like I'm getting the same vibes out of that game as I got out of Starfield. I feel like this is going to be, there's a very good chance this could be the fantasy version of Starfield, where it's safe, flaccid, boring, mediocre, and it's like, okay, every box was checked by a person who is not creative or has no vision. Sure, I felt like it was a video your friend would show you that it'll be like, get to the good part soon. Yeah, exactly. I'll be right back. It's incredibly foolish to judge a game off of its level 1 combat. If we did that, most games would fail. I completely disagree. I think that the level 1 combat in Dragon's Dogma is great. I think that the level 1 combat in Elden Ring is great. I think that the level 1 combat in something like Wuthering Waves is great. The level 1 combat in Dark Souls, any of the Dark Souls games is great. Level 1 combat in Diablo 4 is great. Maybe level 5, right? Somewhere around there, maybe a little bit more. No. If something looks like shit, it's probably going to be shit. What are we talking about?
And whatnot. So it's not like this game is still deep in development. It's like it's pretty much almost done. So hopefully that does mean that the marketing here represents the final product. But yeah, I mean, I think visually it looks striking. I think the engine here is doing a lot of great work. But one area,
I think it looks like garbage. That's my opinion. I think it looks like trash. It's good enough, right? But like the graphics are not an appealing. Like Dragon's Dogma 2 looked good. That game looked really good. This is just generic fantasy slop.
Where I think this game might not resonate with fans is the combat. It looks very third-person action, which, might be more in line with, if like you're a fan of Dragon Age 2, maybe you'll enjoy it. But I feel like they do have the pause aspect of, being able to tactically engage with combat, but it doesn't have that bird's eye view, not that I can see here. It feels more like, I don't know, like Final Fantasy where you pause, maybe Final Fantasy 15 where you don't even directly control your crew members. It's more, you get to like slow down time or pause time and then choose your companion abilities that you want to deploy. Or you could say it's a lot like Mass Effect even, where you're not directly controlling your crewmates. You are picking their abilities for them to deploy on certain targets and stuff like that. But that's, Mass Effect, that's that play style.
There's a number of games that have you fighting with a group of companions. There's something like Baldur's Gate 3, where you're pretty much having them do all specific things. There's something like Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, where you give them the abilities and they use them to their own discretion, and there's a couple of types of programming that you can give them. There's something like XCOM, which I don't really know how that game works very well, but I've seen some like variations of it. There's something like Dragon's Dogma with the pawn system. There's a lot of different versions of this that you can have. I don't see the version of this one being very interesting, though.
Dragon Age, I think people will associate with the tactical nature of
You
being
control
able to
everyone at Baldur's
control
Gate 3?
every
Okay.
aspect of what your characters are doing, and really feel that sense of you being like a master tactician. And let's see that in action right here. Let's see if they actually show the pause menu. But you can see just how third-person action it is. It's got that like hack and slash kind of vibe to it. It's almost like Final Fantasy 16-esque.
Yeah, this is like Final Fantasy 16 if Final Fantasy 16 was bad. That's actually a pretty good comparison. Yeah. So like if you imagine Final Fantasy 16 but it's not good, then you'd get this.
Now, the devs at the Behind Closed Doors presentation made it a point to emphasize that this is like an RPG, and there's going to be a lot of complexity when it comes to like progression and classes and subclasses.
I think that's the last of them.
Good. Let's get to Dumont Plaza and find
But I want to show you, there it is. Okay, so this is more combat. Again, more hack and slash kind of gameplay for the rogue, with some ranged combat with a bow and arrow. But then
Remember Final Fantasy 16's trailers? They were like, here's the game. This is gameplay. So, like, at the beginning of Final Fantasy 16, the combat was pretty dry. But, like, they showed advanced combat, and it was crazy. So, like, where's those videos?
get to the tactical stuff.
Yeah, here's the
tactical
fight with
gameplay
Titan.
of
This is a
pausing
person playing the game.
and deploying moves from your crew members. There, yeah, that is the pause menu of this game.
Jesus.
And you got your own abilities here. Your companion abilities, from what I was told by the devs,
Yeah.
are going to go here and here. So 2 companions next to you. And you know that this just feels like you're not really controlling the battlefield like a chessboard, which is how it felt like in Dragon Age Origin,
Yeah.
where you could literally
That's what I saw from the
command
footage.
every character's individual movement, and it really felt like you were strategizing and really kind of nitpicking every aspect of what was going on in combat from every character that was in the combat sequence. This feels much more like a glorified action game with RPG elements, and that doesn't necessarily mean the game's going to be bad or that gameplay.
I think it is bad in a lot of cases for a game to abandon its original audience in order to chase a trend. And the reason why I think that it's bad is because, and oftentimes the reason why it happens is not because of a creative vision. It's out of the pursuit of numbers. It's like, for example, you ever seen like streamers that'll like play a game because it's popular, not because they want to play it, and the streams are just garbage and awful? I feel like this is kind of the same thing, where it's like, oh yeah, this is a style of game that's really popular right now, so why don't we just take our existing game that we have clearly no creative, genuine vision for, and just totally co-opt and change the way that it works in order to hopefully fit in with modern audiences. Wow, what a surprise it's not going to sell. You know, that's the way I see it.
Isn't going to be fun. There's the question of, is it actually Dragon Age? Is it what people want out of the Dragon Age series as far as the core gameplay is concerned? Like if it was any other IP, maybe people would jive with it, but I think just there's a sense of like people having that nostalgia and missing what Dragon Age Origin, arguably still the best Dragon Age game established, and people wanted this game to go back to that. Now, from a presentation standpoint, aside from graphics, I mean, this is the intro.
Yeah, I mean, there are instances where clearly they do, like, games change the way that they function, right? Like, just over time. That's the way things evolve, and, you know, sure, of course, that's okay. I think the problem is that whenever it's being done clearly in order to just trace a trend. And I think that really, like, one line on a graph doesn't do anything, but multiple points on a graph make a line. So what I'm saying with this is, like, the style of the game, the brevity, like the way that the story is told, like all the quips and, you know, like little fucking stupid things that the characters say, the way they're introduced, the style of the art, like everything about this game seems like it's being created in like a fucking lab for mass appeal.
The game. This is the opening sequence of the game, is what I was told. And the sort of
mass-produced
the
junk,
magnitude of the set pieces does look stellar. I think visually, again, this game's actually looking really gorgeous.
It's a focus-tested game,
and,
yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of cool stuff going on here visually, and there's an epic scale that's already presented in terms of the conflict from the outset. And tonally, it doesn't feel as, I guess, as MCU-y as the trailer made it seem. It does have that sense of impending doom and danger, I suppose. Though some people are kind of criticizing the way his plans right here are foiled by just somebody pushing a pillar, which seems like a bit of an oversight. But, you know, there's stuff like that.
And this is the thing, is that whenever you see something that, like, I view any problem like this as a omega. These are absolutely wild things to continuously say without having touched the game. What part of what I said do you think is inaccurate? What part of it? I guarantee you, I truly believe in the mining canary of video game problems. And I think this is true with almost everything. Is that I think that if you can see problems very early on, that they will be indicative of even more problems later on. And I think that, for example, if you're willing to compromise the integrity of how you tell a story, and like whether like taking it from like dark fantasy to being like upbeat Marvel fantasy, I bet you also probably are bad at telling the story. Because if you weren't bad at telling the story, you probably would keep it in the same vibe. And yeah, I'm just trying to be logical with this. Like, if you don't care about the story enough to change the entire nuance of the way that it's told, I bet the story's also going to be bad. Like, I think that's very fair to say. How does the game look bad? It looks like it runs smoothly, and you say it looks like shit? I do. I think it looks like complete garbage. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it up, and you can tell me if you think it looks good or not. Let's go towards the boss. Does that look good to you? Have you ever played a Bioware game? The control schemes look seemingly like that, like Bioware games like Mass Effect. Like, what about that? Do you think that looks good? I think this looks like garbage. Personally, I think it's just complete trash. Looks generic. I think it looks terrible. I'm sorry, I do. Like, I think it's passable, right? Like, it's not like it's so bad that I won't play the game, but I find this to be bad. I do not think that it looks good. The visuals are awful. And I think also, I completely believe in judging a book by its cover. Because I think that if you can't even be bothered to make a good cover for your book, it's probably not that good to read. So if you can see a trailer and the first impressions of the game are bad, I think 9 times out of 10, probably more than that, it's actually just going to get worse. I'm sorry. I do. It's that simple. Could you be more specific about why it looks horrible? Sure. So I'll go ahead and I'll explain some of the reasons why I think it looks bad. Without playing it, I mean, look at Dragon Age Origins. Certainly wasn't setting the graphics standard on fire. Back whenever it came out, it wasn't bad. And also, graphical fidelity is different than graphical style. The graphical style of this game, I think, is extremely generic. If you look at, for example, the way the colors interact with the other colors, it just feels like you're looking at this game and playing this game feels like you're getting a visual migraine because of the bloom on the colors. And then also, if you look at the way that spell effects are described and indicated in the game, they're hard to read. It's like annoying. Your character's camera angle obscures what you're actually trying to avoid. The grass is making it more difficult for you to see the ground effects. Like, this is just awful. And so whenever I see this, like, if you look at the color and everything, and you really pause, you can barely even see what's going on with this boss because the colors are so vibrant against something that's like very dark colored. You can barely even see what's happening. I don't think this looks good at all. I think it looks awful. It's blurry. Yeah, it's terrible. And I understand that like some people might not see it this way, but whenever I see this, like, I care a lot about the way games look and like not graphics, but style. I think the style for this is horrible. Like, the only game that I can think of that's this bad is this other game. This is probably not the one I originally saw, but what the fuck is going on? Like, really? This is a visual migraine. I'm sorry, this is terrible. And this is the same. You guys see the parallel here? So yes, I think that you can absolutely judge a book by its cover. I think that you can 100% tell whether something is good or not just by looking at it. And while I can't tell what the game feel is, and I still think, again, this is good enough for me to try, but my bar for that is so low. Like, I'll try almost any game.
But, yeah, I mean, if this set piece is representative of what the rest of the game will offer, then cool. And I think in terms of the cinematography of, like, dialogue and the seamless transition from gameplay to cutscenes and dialogue, the cutscenes, the in-game cutscenes, I think, are presented really well. I think the presentation is kind of where this game so far is really appealing to me. But is this Dragon Age? Does this is this going to play like Dragon Age? And, you know, obviously this is an intro sequence and it feels very linear. So what's it going to be like once you get out of the intro sequence? You know,
it's going to be worse. It's going to be garbage. Like, no. It's not like the game is going to be, it's going to be great. Well, the stuff that you didn't see is going to be really good. And it's just a coincidence that all the stuff that we're showing you is bad. How could anybody be that? No.
How open is the open world going to feel? The quests, the storylines, the variety and magnitude of content, all of that is still up in the air. So yeah, I don't know, man. The game is supposed to come out in fall.
Doesn't matter if the combat in the game is what will. That is the window in which you see the game. If the combat is bad and visual migraine inducing, then the entire game will be bad. Because the combat will be what people will do after they finish the campaign. And also, I think if the combat's bad, if you can't get the combat in a game like this right, you probably can't get the other stuff right either.
Of 2024, so there's still a couple of months left for them to hopefully market the game better in the lead up to launch and show us the stuff that's really going to wow Dragon Age fans. You know, cool looking set pieces and presentation alone is not what's going to be able to carry whether people really feel invested in this
more important
game.
than graphics, yeah.
I think they're going to have to show more story beats. They're going to have to show more open world stuff. They're going to have to show more of how the combat looks. Right now, like what they showed here in terms of combat, they didn't have...
The characters always being so unappealing doesn't help. Yeah. And I feel like this is another problem the game has is like, did he link the video? Yeah, he did. So every single one of these characters, you already know what their personality is, right? This is the, dwarf, hard, like badass guy. This is the cool female dwarf that also drinks alcohol, that has like a cool personality. This is the dangerous assassin guy who, is like in the shadows. This is the quirky, spunky, like, funny character that's generally comedic appeal. This is just basically your necromancer guy that's he's probably like the smart guy that understands everything for the, for the group, and he'll tell them, like, he'll know more stuff than him, right? And then you have like this guy who's like this like ranger. He doesn't really even do anything. He's just fighting something, right? There's not even any personality at all with that character. Then you have like this girl who's like some badass, super cool, like, female protagonist that fights dragons. Like, and you can get, like, in all of these personalities, I feel like are so cookie cutter. They're super, super cookie cutter. I do. That's the way I see it. There's a girl? I think so. I think. The worst part about it, how it's also predictable? Yeah, exactly. It's like a heist movie? Yeah, exactly. It's like a heist movie, but, like, the problem is that, like, you can look at, The Italian Job or Snatch or something like that, where, like, they basically introduce characters as the stereotype, but, like, the movie does that. Like, it does that, and it respects the intelligence of the watcher, right? It does it in a way that's cool. Can you already tell, though? Yeah, pretty much. How much do you guys, like, what do y'all think I'm right about this? With the character personalities? Very likely going to be right. Yeah, exactly. And so it's just
much in the way of like choosing abilities from companions and how the tactical element is actually going to work. Like, you've got one ability here that's yours, but all this other stuff is locked, and there's obviously stuff that will unravel.
So Mrs. Wrong about Varric. He's a known caretaker from the old games, and you're way off with him. What makes you think that they're going to allow the personalities from the old games carry over to the new game? So every single other version, every single other aspect of the game has been changed and modernized, but you think that the one thing that won't be modernized is the thing that I'm saying, just so you can argue for no reason? So they changed the style, they changed the tone, they changed the art, they changed the combat, but there's no way they're going to change the personalities of the characters?
That's yours, but all this other stuff is locked, and there's obviously stuff that will unravel throughout the course of the game, but it's hard to see how the tactical combat of this particular Dragon Age release will really look and feel and play when you only show sort of the intro portion of the game, where that stuff's very limited, or, I mean, currently non-existent. But I just don't get the sense that it's going to feel like Dragon Age Origin, which is the game that I'm most like, this is what Dragon Age should be. It's kind of like when Nintendo puts out a new Paper Mario game, and something like Origami King is not the worst game ever or anything. It's like, oh, that's, pretty good. But fuck, do I miss Thousand Year Door and that style of Paper Mario, and why do they refuse to go back to that fan favorite sort of gameplay style of that series? Why do they keep trying for something that isn't resonating with fans as much? People would like to see.
I think the reason why they're trying for it is because it's a AAA game and they're making it 5 years in the past, and so, like, I think that if they could, like, theoretically immediately course correct in 6 months, I don't think the game would look like this. But the problem is that, like, they started probably developing this game when Fortnite got popular. Think about that. Maybe even before then. So if you're developing a game 10 years development, right? Exactly. Yeah.
Make more akin to Thousand Year Door.
That's another factor.
And with Dragon Age, they would like to see Bioware make a Dragon Age that's more akin to Origin. But with all that said, it's too early to judge. I think the production value of this game definitely looks impressive, but whether it'll tell a story that feels reminiscent to the Bioware of old, whose writing and storytelling I thought was, masterful back in the day, and whether they can harken back to that, and whether this is going to be a game that ultimately appeals to fans of the series, and, whether it'll actually end up launching in a good state and not be...
I don't really give a shit. I mean, from my perspective, like, you guys have to look at it from the way that I see games. Every game, for me, well, no matter what happens, I win. If the game comes out and it's great, I have a game to play for 2 weeks. If a game comes out and it's garbage, I have a game that I can watch videos about it being garbage for 2 weeks. I literally can't lose. So I don't give a shit. If the game's good, great. If it's bad, okay. Which one do you like more? Well, I would rather the game was good. Yeah, I mean, I would rather the game was good. That'd be nice, have another one of those games. I think you're being too harsh. The 4K screenshot was showed on Twitter. It looks good. Compression makes the bitrate look worse. Compression makes bitrate look worse. You're right, but I don't. I'll believe it when I see it.
Being kind of another Anthem or Mass Effect Andromeda scenario, that remains to be seen. I wish them the best, but certain skepticisms I think are also warranted at this stage. But Bioware, they need to come back, man, and they need a big win to do so, and hopefully this Dragon Age game will be it. They're working on the next Mass Effect game as well, and I feel like whether people feel excited for that will ride greatly on how they do with Dragon Age, and whether that can kind of start building up goodwill and a more positive reputation again. But alas, ladies and gentlemen, this is everything I have to say about Dragon Age the Veilguard and why it's kind of being mass disliked from what I can see, and what my take on the game is based on what I've seen. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Dragon Age Veilguard, and whether it's appealing to you, or whether you're kind of waiting and seeing, or whether you're completely like, nah, this ain't for me. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.
I'm going to be honest. I think that he's being very positive about the game. He's trying to be positive. He probably likes the franchise. He likes the series. He wants it to be good. But man,
Not represent.
the combat and this shit, it just doesn't look that good. It doesn't. And I hope it's going to be good. I do. I hope it's going to... He wants to be invited to the previews? No. I mean, I don't think that's the reason. But, he said that he saw a little bit more of the game than we did. Maybe he has a slightly better opinion. Maybe that's because he saw more of the content. I don't know, man.